Hello everyone, Fanta here. You're watching FANTAVISION, and today I am back with another Tales from Retail. I'm sorry about the delay between videos, a little bit longer than usual, because I was not in the state. So now I'm back. I have a lot of videos that have been on the back burner. No, I have not forgotten about my PlayStation Classic video. Just a lot of things happened in my personal life. I did not have time to get to that, but now I'm back. And I'm going to be making tons of videos and look forward to those PlayStation videos probably this week. So I'll give you more status updates after the fade out. So today I am discussing here about how to balance kind of your retail and your full-time college experience. And I feel like this applies to not only people that are going to a university, but people that are also going to a community college full-time. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are both going to college full-time and they're trying to take their classes, they're studying for tests, but they also have to pay the bills. They want money to at least, spend on some fun things with the little bit of free time they have. And we'll get into all that and how to, A, pick a job that you know is going to work with your school, and B, how to manage your money a little bit, and C, how to manage your time and all of that sort of stuff. Now, I do want to thank Who Wants Toast. There was also a couple other people that suggested this video. Thank you so much. Like I said, without your help, I don't know what the hell to do. I've racked my brain a bunch of times trying to come up with more topics for this series. I'm branching out further from just GameStop and Walmart and talking about stories from where I worked, and I'm handing out advice now because you guys are asking it. And you know what? I have a lot of years of retail service underneath my belt, and I also went to college full-time, so this is right up my alley. I mean, I can tell you what I did right, I can tell you what I did wrong, and the different pitfalls that people, constantly fall into during this time in their life. Now, let's just start off by saying you need to pick a job that is going to work with your college. They need to know that college is your priority, not your job, because there are a lot of jobs out there. They're minimum wage jobs, and yet for some reason they act like they're like this amazing organization and that they require all of your free time and that your schedule does not matter, and they'll fire you at any chance they can, and they won't work with your school schedule. Just disregard those jobs immediately, because there are plenty of jobs out there that will work with your schedule. As much as people hate on GameStop, as much as I hate on GameStop, because they really do deserve it, I gotta give them credit that my managers, at least my managers, really worked with my school schedule. If I told them, hey, I can't come in that day, I've got a test, I'd let them know what's coming ahead of time. They'd plan my hours accordingly. They knew when I was going to classes, how long it took to get from college to GameStop. They gave me leeway if I was late because of something or other. They were great. They really worked with my schedule, and I feel like I would have done even worse in college if I'd had a different job. And it was also a job that didn't require me to do anything outside of work, because that's another thing you don't want from your job while you're going to college full-time, is you don't want your job giving you homework. I mean, you've got enough homework already. There are some jobs out there that require you to do extra work outside of work hours. They want you to research something or learn something or something or other. All of this, I feel like this is not legal, especially if you're not salaried, but there are definitely jobs out there that I've heard where they have to do things outside of the normal work hours. And that's just, no, don't do that. I don't remember specifically which jobs they were. They weren't like regular retail or anything like that. But there are jobs out there that will try to take advantage of you because they know that you need this job, so you're going to work above and beyond and even outside of your normal work hours. For the love of God, do not do that. Also, if a job is trying to make you work off the clock, do not do this. This is illegal. In fact, report it, and you could probably get them in serious trouble, and you might even be able to sue them. So there are all these different legal things that they should be following. It's pretty basic, but if they break any of them, they're serious issues and serious litigation that can happen against that company. So beware of all that. Beware of being taken advantage of, because they definitely will try to do that. And there were times where I had to come in on my days off because there was nobody else to cover. Now, I didn't have to, but they definitely kind of guilted me into it. I think you should stand your ground. This is a job that is temporary. This is not your career. Use your days off to their fullest, because you know what? When you're going to school full time and you're working 32 to 40 hours, you need those days off. You need to unwind. You need to relax. Otherwise, you're going to burn out. And there are definitely plenty of times that I burned out in college where I just I couldn't do anything. I was exhausted every single day. I didn't bother showering when I got up, so I just threw a beanie on for my hair. I was going to shower later because my classes were so early in the morning. I didn't want to deal with it. I mean, I was a mess, and I was really stressed out. I wasn't happy. I was just, it was not a healthy time in my life. So don't do that to yourself. For the love of God, don't let these companies do this to you, because they will try to take advantage of you. Just tell them whenever you've got a free day, say you can't because you've got a test coming up soon or something like that. And if they are just like the company that I mentioned, where I said, hey, they have to work with your schedule, they'll understand, hey, you're in school, that's your priority, then they should back off and leave you alone and find somebody else. But I feel like that's more of a GameStop issue, because GameStop has so few workers as it is. They're already understaffed. They're essentially always understaffed. So if anybody calls out sick, it's this huge hassle. Whereas in Walmart, whatever, who cares? If you call it in Target, it's usually whatever, who cares? In a bigger store, it's not going to matter. But when you work in a closet, it's going to be a much bigger issue than when you're working with 30 other people on the floor. So that is definitely step one, is that you need a place of employment that is going to work with you and not against you, because there are plenty of places, like I said, that will work you to the bone. You're going to get burned out. Your grades are going to slip. My grades were terrible freshman year, and it's the only reason that my GPA wasn't what I wanted when I graduated. I mean, at least I graduated, and they say C's get degrees and all that stuff, and I had a low B average, but I know I could have done better if I had stuck to my guns more and told them no, and if I had just made better choices with time. And let's get into that real quick. I think I said money. I don't remember what order I said. It doesn't matter. This isn't some table of contents in the beginning of the video. It's fine. So, managing your time is the number one thing you need to learn in life. Otherwise, you're just not going to be successful. You're not going to be ready when shit hits the fan. You need to plan out basically everything. Otherwise, you're going to get caught off guard, and you're going to be stuck in a situation where you're just panicking. And I hate that feeling, and I did that all the time in college. I'd procrastinate. I wouldn't plan stuff out. And then I slowly learned over time, hey, if I plan stuff out and I make sure that this is started and is finished at these specific times, and I don't, mess around, I can get a lot more done during the day. I can be a lot more productive. And unfortunately, I didn't learn this until much later in life. And I was always told, time management, but I wasn't really, I didn't understand how important it was until much later. And especially now, right now, I've got a full-time job and I'm doing this. So I have to plan out when I have time to record, when I have time to stream, when I have time to have some sort of social life outside of all of this. And that's another thing that you need to worry about, is having a social life while in college, while working retail. And a lot of people can't figure out how to do both, and that's because they don't have the proper time management, or they just have some insane major that they're going for that has just an incredible amount of homework and really difficult assignments. That makes sense. I knew quite a few people that were like that, but they still found some time outside of that, because like I said, you will get burned out. And if you get burned out, you start working too hard, you get depressed, you get burned out, your grades slip, And what was all that work for in the first place if your grades are slipping? You might as well have gone out and done something fun. So this time management comes into play when you're like, okay, I'm going to class at these times. Then you can kind of slot in between those classes, I'm going to work on homework. I did that all the time. It's like, okay, well, I've got this class, and then like forever after that, I have another class. So I'm just going to work on homework in this quiet spot with my laptop. I know I can plug in here, and I know they have food. So I've got all these things in one area so I can really maximize the amount of time I have and put it towards whatever the hell this is. So after I'm done with all my classes, I can do whatever other homework I get from this last class, but it's usually not that much, and then I can go do stuff. Or I can study for another test in another class and then do stuff. So if you figure out when you're working, when your classes are, all of that sort of stuff, you're going to be fine. What I would recommend is to start out, I mean, I do this mentally nowadays, but what I would start out doing, especially in college, is having a planner. Get some sort of planner, like it's got the day, it's got all the hours. You write down what you're doing in between each of those hours. And when you start doing this, you can start picking out, okay, well, I've got all these little chunks of free time. What am I going to do with that? How can I consolidate that free time either later on in the day so it'd be a bigger chunk so I can do something else instead of just, playing video games for 30 minutes or an hour, something like that. If you can somehow condense all those chunks later on, then you'll have more free time, then you'll be able to have more of a social life, then you won't get burned out. And that's incredibly important. And like I said, I didn't learn these things until much later on, because sometimes even when I was planning stuff, I just procrastinated again. That's like the number one thing that you cannot do in life is procrastinate. I mean, my Lord, I still do it sometimes, and when I do, I deeply regret it. It just causes more stress than it needs to be. If you can do things ahead of time, that is the pro move right there. That's the move. Do that. If you can get ahead of things, especially in college, if you're taking an online class, a lot of the time you can look ahead, you can read ahead, some people love to just knock out their entire online class. Some classes don't do this. Most of my online classes didn't let me do this. But I had friends, especially in community college, where their online classes were not gated by time. Mine were. Why would you do that? Let the kid just blow through your course. I don't understand why you're stunting their progress. If they can go super far, let them do it. Anyway, so if you can do that, pick a day and just do as much as you can. Don't get burned out while doing it, because if you do, you're going to start trying to rush it. You're going to be sloppy. Take your time. Really make sure you're doing good quality work, but try to do as much as you can in a short amount of time. If you know what I mean. I know it sounds kind of counterproductive. Don't rush it, but do it in a small amount of time. You know what I mean. If you've got a free day, put a big chunk of that day towards that class and try to knock out as much as you can. Especially if you know your other classes are going to have huge projects coming up, lots of homework or tests or something like that, then you can knock it out and you can focus on those things later on. I know I sound like a parent right now, but a lot of these things I was vaguely told when I was in college, but I didn't have somebody that I followed on YouTube. I feel like if I had somebody on YouTube that I followed and watched tell me all of this, it would stick better. Like Rudy from, what is it? Oh, I forgot it. Alpha Investments. He constantly gives just life advice. And for some reason, it just sticks with me more than hearing it from your parents, which is weird. Like, you should listen to your parents, obviously, but these are the people that have been giving you advice for your entire life. And you're just kind of like, whatever at this point. You're like, okay, that's fine, whatever. I'll do whatever. And then you don't listen to it and you go do something else. And also a lot of these people online that I've listened to and taken advice from, they're closer to your age, so you can kind of relate more. I'm sure I'm closer to a lot of your guys' age than your parents are. I'm in my 20s, for the love of God. If you're somehow in college and your parents are in their 20s, that doesn't make sense to me. Time management, insanely important. Get a freaking planner. They're not that expensive. They're like a couple of bucks, and it will change your life. It really will. But stick to it. Don't procrastinate. But with this time management thing, also know that things are going to just pop up at random. You can't plan everything, unfortunately. Random things will pop up. Obstacles will be thrown in the way. So giving yourself wiggle room, doing things ahead of time, like I said, will make up for that fact. Now, sometimes you won't be able to do that. You will have to cram because, life events do happen. It's going to happen. But if you do this planner hour by hour type thing like I'm talking about, it really will change your life. And stick with it. If you make it into a habit, you're more likely to keep doing it. Just like working out. Like, I hate working out, but I got into this habit with my coworkers. So now it's just like, oh, it's Monday. It's 11 a.m. It's time to work out. It's just kind of the routine now. Just like with the planner. It'll be a routine. There you go. Wonderful. Anyway, speaking of money, like I said, it was only a couple of bucks. Money management is huge. And the thing is, there's so many apps out there that you can just put in how much you have for income. And you put in, my buddy SBS is actually doing this. He's putting in this app what he's spending every day, and he's trying to track where the needless spending is, how he can save money. There's also a subreddit called Eat Cheap and Healthy. There are definitely some things on there that you can do while you're in college. What I recommend is Costco. Costco is huge. I'm sure it'll help out a lot. Now, it's a little bit difficult in the dorm because that fridge is so freaking small and the freezer section's even smaller. If you're living in the dorms, I'm assuming that your parents are probably paying for a lot of it, and the parents are probably paying for your meal plan as well. Then you really don't have to worry about food, and you can just kind of go, okay, well, I'm not going to spend a whole lot on stupid crap, and I'm going to use this time in my life where my parents are providing for me, or my scholarship is providing for me, and I'm going to set aside as much money as I can, so I've got like a good rainy day fund for the future. You've got somewhat of a savings for the future, because a lot of people, even my age, don't have any savings, and that I can't even imagine. Like, I'd lose my mind if I didn't have any savings in the bank, because I've been there. I've been there with no savings, and it's terrifying. At one point, I paid my rent before I got promoted at GameStop by selling video games that I bought at garage sales, because my old channel was about game hunting at garage sales. I didn't sell usually, but I had to pay rent and the bills, so I wound up selling a small chunk of my collection just to pay that off. And then thankfully, I got promoted. With a promotion came more money per hour and more hours overall. So then after that, I could start affording things again, and it wasn't as big of an issue. But I've been there, so if during college, if you do have scholarships, if your parents are paying for it, use that time to not buy a bunch of stupid crap you don't need. For the love of God, don't buy an insane gaming laptop. That's what a lot of people do in college, is they buy this crazy gaming laptop. If you're gonna get a gaming computer, get a desktop. Build it yourself. There are so many budget builds out there. You can get one for like $400, $500. It'll run most of the things today that you want to play at like medium settings, and you're fine. You don't need a 4K crazy gaming setup. My buddy not really my buddy anymore, but one of my old pals, my freshman year of college, we get in the dorm, he spends all of his extra money from his scholarships on a gaming laptop. Then he was out of money. That was it. Like, I think he had the meal plan. I don't quite remember. I'm pretty sure he did with the scholarship, but he had to get a part-time job outside of that to pay for gas and everything else, just like spending money, because he spent like $2,000 or something like crazy on this gaming laptop instead of saving it and just, using that throughout the school year. I don't know what he was thinking. Don't do that, for the love of God. If you need a laptop, get a chintzy little laptop. Laptops are crappy in nature. They don't age well. You can't upgrade them very well. The parts in them just are not as good as a desktop, and you can't just fix a part usually. It's a bigger pain in the ass. If the keyboard breaks, it's way more expensive than just picking up a new keyboard for your desktop. For the love of God, do not do that. For some reason, that's a thing that a lot of people do. Don't buy a Mac. Seriously. You do not need a Mac for college. You just don't. I don't know where this came from. I'm sure it was some marketing thing where, get a Mac because you're going to college. You don't need a Mac. If for some reason you're in this graphic design class that has a Mac-only program, that's the only time you ever need a Mac. They're insanely expensive. They're, again, not that great because they're laptops. Even the desktops, for the love of God, do not get a Mac desktop. I've seen it happen way too many times. People just blow all of their money on these fancy-ass computers that they barely ever use, and then they have to get a part-time job along with all this other stuff, and then they will lose track of school, and they'll just be working at that place. My buddy dropped out after the first semester, got into hard drugs, and became a manager at McDonald's. He had a full ride. Had everything paid for through scholarships, and he just threw it away. For the love of God, do not do this, because you're throwing away your future and you're going to deeply regret it for the rest of your life. College is like this prime time to take advantage of every resource that you can in this overly expensive institution that you're going to. If you're going to do the student debt route, for the love of God, take advantage of everything there. Join a club, meet new people. I did some of these things, but I definitely wasted most of my college years. And because, again, I worked too much. Because I didn't balance it correctly. I worked too much, and I was in a relationship I shouldn't have been in. I was in 2. They were terrible. Both were terrible. I was in 1. It went horrible. Found somebody else, and they were even worse. And yet I stuck in these toxic relationships for too long. I wasted too much time in them. That's like a whole new video for another day. But time management and picking out what is most important for your future and not just now is the most important thing to think about in college. So please make new friends in college, find some clubs, do all that sort of stuff. I know I talked about that in surviving retail. Find hobbies, do things outside of retail to kind of keep your mind active. And that's what you definitely need to do while you're also in college and retail at the same time, because you're burning the candle at both ends. You're doing 2 very stressful things at once. So you need to find something out there that you enjoy that is also a good use of your time. Just saying. That's what I recommend, because I didn't do a lot of these things and I really, really regret it. Also, with time management, just make sure that your workplace isn't that far from your job, because I made that mistake. My workplace was almost an hour away from my college, and I drove so freaking much. I have wasted so much of my life in a car. It is ridiculous. I mean, I've put, I don't even know how many, well over 150,000 miles in my car. I guess in 10 years. Is that bad? I don't know. That sounds like a lot of driving still. I've done a lot of driving. It's not a good time to be that far from your college and have your place of employment be that far, and then have your, because it was all like when I was living on campus, great, that's wonderful. I can walk to classes, but I worked at GameStop an hour away. So I had to go all the way to GameStop and then all the way back. And then the next year, I lived with my dad, who was next to the GameStop. So I would go to school, come back, go to work, and then sometimes I have to go back to school again and then go back home. So it was just so much freaking driving that, what a waste of time. For the love of God, don't do that. It was awful. It was just awful. The last thing I can really recommend when it comes to surviving / just, making sure you've got a good balance of work and school is to make sure that you don't hate your job. I know that's going to be difficult, but try to find a job that you don't really, really hate. Because if you do, it's just going to add more to that burnout potential. And doing anything you can to get a job that you're going to at least enjoy a little bit. Maybe try to find an internship, a paid internship. I hate that I have to say paid internship. Why are there unpaid internships? Try to find a paid internship in the field that you're going to college for. Do that, because it'll give you work experience, so you're not stuck trying to find a job after college going, all of these places require work experience and I haven't worked a job yet. This doesn't make any sense. I'm in this infinite loop. That's because during college, you should take advantage of different programs inside the hopefully the university that you're going to that will point you in the right direction to companies that are looking for internships. Especially if you're like an engineer or something like that, I'm sure there's some company out there that is going to want some paid internships. So look into that sort of stuff. Even if you're like a teacher, I feel like there are like student teaching opportunities. There's so many different things you can do while you're going to college that you can do, basically preparing for your future and working at the same time, which is just a double whammy, and what I highly recommend you do. And I know people that did this and it really worked out for them. So follow some of this advice. Oh, and then for the money advice, I know there are people that aren't going to have scholarships or are not going to have people helping with their college. They're not going to have family that can afford it. I don't want to get political here, but it would be neat if it was free, wouldn't it? It'd be pretty neat. I think depending on income, you can usually fill out a FAFSA. It's this form. You send it in, do all these things like immediately. Look up every institution you can that will give you financial aid, because there's definitely financial aid out there for you. I know my buddy that got a full ride, I think he got some like homeless thing because he wasn't living with his parents anymore because he had a really bad relationship with them. So he even got money through that as well. If your grades are good, check out what scholarships the school you want to go to is offering. Basically, look for all the free money you can out there, because there definitely is some sort of solution. If your family is not making enough, if you're living in poverty, there's going to be financial aid out there for you, and there's going to be a lot of different institutions that will also provide help. They're also going to be a pain in the ass about it, most likely, but if you just, just plan for it to be a pain in the ass, I guess. But if there's any way to get free financial aid, do it, because avoiding student debt at all costs is what I will always recommend to people, because student debt is something that will follow you forever. Even if you declare bankruptcy, it sticks with you, which is just crazy to me. How do we live in a society where going and trying to get a better education is like you're punished for it? That's ridiculous, right? I mean, that's crazy to me. Anyway, before diving into politics and all that other stuff, I'll end it here. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope this helped a little bit. And as always, have a fantastic day. See you guys. For those wondering, I'm drinking peach bubbly. I actually like this one. I don't like the other bubblies, but I do like the peach one. And also, I shaved. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I shaved. I'm getting a haircut pretty soon. So that's neat. I just knew people were going to discuss it in the comments. Also, streaming is starting up again. Probably starting Wednesday? Thursday? Sometime this week I'm going to be starting to stream again. It's been a while. I want to get back into a schedule again, because it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy streaming. I just need to find the time for it. This week's a little tricky because I am recording the podcast tomorrow. Sorry again about it being late. I was not in the state, so I could not be on the futon. But back to the futon. This Friday, streams coming soon this week. PlayStation videos coming soon. And a new Patreon exclusive video will also be coming soon as well. So lots of things on the horizon. Lots of stuff to look forward to.